Hey everybody, this is Blake here, and welcome to my review of Fury, which is actually a good movie. This year has sucked for me so far. It seems like I've been reviewing a lot of films I've disliked and very few films I've actually embraced. Now, granted, I think the last one that I really enjoyed was A Walk Among the Tombstones, which typically underperformed at the box office because people had to go see Annabelle. And I never got the chance to see Gone Girl, which I hear was really good. But, Fury really made me happy. I thought it was going to be a good movie, and it ended up being a really good, if not great, movie. Now, I'm going to start off with what I disliked about it, just to get that out of the way. For one, Fury relies a bit too much on stereotypes and conventions, especially in regards to the characters. You've seen this entire cast before. You have the leader who's a father to his men, the religious guy, the crazy guy, the ethnic minority, the rookie who needs to grow a pair of balls by the end of the movie. Fury is not breaking any new grounds in regards to its characterizations, and even when the film tries to go out of its way to avoid the stereotypes which accompanies these kinds of characters, I felt that it was being a little bit too emotionally manipulative. So for example, the crazy guy is an asshole throughout the entire film, although sometimes at least he's an endearing asshole, but there's one scene before the finale that humanizes his character. The only reason I felt they did that was so we'd feel something in regards to him during the third act, when he is obviously going to be in peril. The fact that that one scene makes us now care for him, ensures that we will feel tension whenever his life is in danger, and if he does die, then we will feel sad. there's also this big backstory scene earlier on in the movie that I just felt went on a bit too long, and even though the film wants me to shed tears, I know this because Shia LaBeouf starts doing that single tear rolling down his cheek cliche. It just didn't quite have the emotional impact that it wanted to have. So those are the main issues I had with this movie. However, for every negative point I could bring up, a better positive counterpoint just knocks it out of the water, even in regards to these direct criticisms. So I might say that the characters are very stereotypical, but the actors they're so entertaining. They have larger than life personalities that makes all of their interactions very compelling. I enjoyed watching them even if they were playing very unoriginal characters. Brad Pitt can play this role in his sleep. He's just naturally good at it. I totally bought him as the leader, the veteran of the group. And whenever he says something, you listen. And even when he's just standing around and doing nothing, you pay attention because he's just so charismatic. And I really respect that they toned down his looks for this movie. I was really even impressed with Shia LaBeouf. I still don't know if I'm pronouncing his name correctly, but this was the only time I've seen him in a movie and I did not see him as just Shia LaBeouf. I saw him as the character he was trying to play. Now, a lot of that is they definitely mess around with his appearance, but it still paid off really well, I thought. And even though I felt they oversold once again the single tear going down his cheek bit, otherwise I thought he was really surprisingly good. And the rest of the cast does really well too, although what was up with Jason Isaacs' accent, that was weird, but I am such a big Jason Isaacs fan that even when he's doing such a phony voice, he's always going to entertain me. So I had no real problem there. So that counters the first problem. Now, the visual style really did leave an emotional impact on me where the dialogue often was unable to. There's just so many haunting, beautiful but haunting shots that they're just so chilling and effective. This film has a very powerful atmosphere. The cinematography is very bleak, but not in a dull way. I felt that, like, by having a lot of gray in the picture, I thought that was kind of overdone when Book of Eli, The Road, and Daybreakers came out a few years ago. It just wore out its welcome, and eventually I started getting bored by those kinds of films' visual styles. But in this case, there was something always aesthetically appealing about the backgrounds and the sets, but at but there's also something very grim about them too, and the color or lack of color, I should say, really I felt amplified that. But then, in an interesting contrast, there's this one scene where they encounter these women in their home, and it's very brightly lit, and it's just a total different kind of mood, and it made sense considering the context of that scene. So that was really cool. I have to look at my facts or my notes. I thought the various shots were perfectly framed. There's so much imagery that's going to stay with me a long time after I've seen the movie. The final shot. Sorry, losing my voice. The opening shot. I thought the gore really did add to the atmosphere and intensity. This film is really freaking violent, but then there's just some various scenes that are very unsettling. Like they're driving the tank and you just see randomly a part of a corpse submerged in water, and it looks like they've been left there for quite some time because from what we see, the body is almost skeletal, and they just run right over it, and the camera lingers on that shot, and it's very disturbing. In a lot of ways, Fury works better as a horror film than most horror films, Annabelle, can do in terms of generating a very frightening atmosphere, even though this film isn't necessarily trying to be scary. The special effects, flawless. The action scenes are really good too. I like how the director doesn't just point and shoot and let the action speak for itself. He uses a variety of different angles and editing tricks, but it all, I thought, amplified the action. It made it more exciting, more intense. I could always tell what was going on. The sound design really, really was phenomenal. I loved how you could hear the bullets bouncing off of the tank's armor, and the sounds that the rockets or the anti-tank weapons would make. That just in itself was intense, because whenever you'd hear something like that, I found myself anyway cringing and shielding my face. Don't get me. So this probably had some of the best sound design for the entire year. It's non-stop action too. I mean, maybe not non-stop, but I'd say that the majority of the screen time is dedicated to some form of action, and so I thought it was incredibly well paced. I also liked a random small tidbit is how you see these battles affecting the landscape. Usually, even though that obviously happens, films don't focus on that. When you have two tanks fighting, or even just one tank, they're going to emphasize, the people getting blown up or the tanks getting blown up. But in this film, you could see like the landscape being shredded apart in the background, trees getting blown in half or uprooted completely, buildings collapsing. I thought that really added to the action. It gave it much more depth. God, what else can I say? Oh yeah, the suspense. Whew. This movie gets you by the balls in the very beginning and never really lets up. And part of it's because there's a feeling of danger surrounding every corner. The characters almost always seem to be in some sort of peril, and even when they're at the base early on, you still don't feel like they're out of danger. There'll be some enemy plane swooping over them, causing them to take cover. So this was a very intense experience, but you also feared them as well, just as much as you feared for them, because these are not nice people. You see them commit war crimes fairly frequently, And there's just one moment where they encounter these two women, and man, that scene was very uncomfortable because you don't know what they're going to do, and the film knows knows that you don't know, so they're really playing that up to just for maximum impact. It just seems like they stretched that out to a point where it becomes agonizing. Like, what's going to happen? What are they going to do to these poor girls? Are they going to do anything? What? I mean, this film was masterful in regards to its suspense, and shocking how the guy who directed this had previously done Sabotage earlier this year. Talk about a major rebound. Even though I didn't think his directing was bad in that movie, the script was more the issue, but the directing wasn't good enough to overcome the script. Whereas with this film, wow, I mean, he went all out. So I loved Fury, flaws and all. I think it's one of the few films that can be enjoyed by both highbrow viewers, the critics, and general audiences alike. The highbrow viewers will appreciate the artistry that went into the actual filmmaking, and general audiences will appreciate, the non-stop action, while at the same time getting a little bit more than just non-stop action. So definitely check this movie out. I did not do a written review, but I did one of The Five Deadly Venoms, as well as Dracula Untold, so read those. Also check out my Dracula Untold vlog if you haven't, please. Follow me on Facebook and Twitter, and I know you're all wondering what's going on with Critiquing the Critics. You keep saying it's going to be released in a week, and then it doesn't happen. Well, I'm going to leave a post on Facebook explaining what is going on with that, why it's taking so long, and when I think I'll have it up. So please check that out. I'll leave a link in the description. I hope you enjoyed this video, and I will see you guys later.